So when I first got into photography, it actually wasn't because I had a love of photography, it was because I had a love of travel. I was very fortunate when I was in high school and college to travel to a few pretty exotic locations. Costa Rica, Australia, New Zealand, Fiji. And it was my experiences during those trips that really kind of gave me the travel bug. I realized that I was working in an 8-to-5 job at a hospital and it really wasn't the life that I wanted. So I picked up and sold everything that I had and actually moved up to British Columbia. And it was there that I kind of had that moment where I realized that I wanted to travel for a living. And photography seemed like a logical pathway in order to make that happen. So my breakthrough moment with photography actually came pretty early on in my career. I realized that it actually was a passion of mine. And after traveling around for 3 months around the Providence, taking lots of really bad photos and kind of learning from my mistakes, I built up enough confidence in order to take a big step. And so I woke up one morning and really decided that I wanted to go visit Southeast Asia. So I bought a one-way ticket to Bangkok, Thailand, and on the flight over, the woman sitting next to me was actually a rock climber from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, actually going to get married. And her friend, which was a photographer, actually backed out at the last second, and so on the flight over, I was able to convince her to pay me in order to shoot her wedding. So when it comes down to it, I think there's a few things that kind of separate me as a photographer. I fully believe that the art of photography is kind of a 3-step process, and that goes from pre-visualization to actually shooting to post-processing. I think a lot of photographers from the past generations really had such a high emphasis on getting it right in camera, which no doubt is a very important philosophy to take into photography. But it kind of negated the fact that post-processing was an art unto itself. I'm very fortunate in my career to be where I am today in order to put together certain projects or start companies like The Giving Lens, which I started last year, that allow me to provide opportunities for photographers to find meaningful ways and tangible ways to give back to the communities that we work in. Typically, a lot of photographers travel around to these amazing locations, but it's a very one-sided relationship that's developed. We go to these locations, we shoot these beautiful individuals, these beautiful scenes, maybe we spend a little bit of money in country and then we leave. So The Giving Lens is a company I started last year where we blend photo education as well as supporting sustainable development initiatives with NGOs all over the world. So we partner with these NGOs in order to help fight for child education, women's rights, clean drinking water projects, and all sorts of different causes around the world. When it comes to my workflow process, it's actually pretty simple. When an image comes into my system, it usually jumps into Adobe Lightroom first off. And from there I do some basic keywording, fill in my copyright information, maybe do a little bit of basic editing. From there I typically jump into Adobe Photoshop, which I use for more advanced techniques. I also use Adobe Photoshop for kind of a pinboard for some of the other third-party applications that I use, such as On1 Software or Nik Software Suite. And the reason for that is that if I stayed in Lightroom and use these software applications, each of them create a PSD or a TIFF file. And if I'm using multiple different applications to stylize my images, to stylize a single image, then I have 5 or 6 different TIFF files that eats up a lot of hard drive space. When it comes to Wacom products, I really think there's no substitute. I've been using their products for about 2 years now. I use their Intuos product line 5, which is their newest line, for all my travel needs when I'm on the road. Here at the office I use the Cintiq 24-inch HD touch tablet, the newest one they just released. And overall, using these tablets have completely changed my workflow. The sheer amount of precision and efficiency that they bring to the table is really unparalleled when you try to compare it to the use of a mouse. And using a pen, it's much more natural as an artist. It's kind of as an extension of my arm, extension of who I am.